Whew. That's an odd spot for the e-brake to be.
Yeah.
Dang.
Oh, it's not great for tall people.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh man. How do you feel?
This is so cool.
That's so cool that they have the straps too that you can pull down for the doors. Alright, so we didn't actually buy a DeLorean, but what did we get instead? We have this beautiful car right behind me. It's a 1995 Lexus ES300. But how did we get to this point? So a little bit of backstory here. Ever since Raphael's put it into my head about a month ago, I've been absolutely raving about a 2017 Mustang GT as my new project. I was thinking about getting one at auction since they're relatively cheap, but most of the time there's damage to those cheaper vehicles. In the case that they aren't damaged, they tend to go for a much higher price than I would like to spend. Last week, Eric sent me a link to an older body style of Mustang that I wasn't so much a fan of on this site called CTM Unlimited Auctions, which is local to Washington. We actually looked through the site a little more, and both found cars that we were interested in bidding in. I found a 1995 Lexus ES300 that had 140,000 miles on it. We even went as far as going in and taking a look at the cars we were going to bid on, and it sold it for me. I absolutely needed this car. And that brings us up to speed with the present moment. Oh, they're doing it right now! Come on! And it ran out of gas because I ran the fuck out of the gas while I was there, so they're trying to push the car in right now. I hope nobody bids on this because of this problem. Oh my god, this is gonna be so sick. Plus, there's a check engine light on it. I don't think anybody's actually looked at it. I think they're just gonna bid without knowing anything. I really hope they don't, because I don't want to spend more than $1,000 on this car. And with all the extra auction costs and all that, oh, this is tough, man. There it is, there it is. They're trying to push it in. I'm not bidding on this car, guys. I'm sorry. Should I buy it for 11? No. See, the thing is, if I'm gonna buy this car, did I just bid $1,100 on this car? Fuck. Guess it's mine. Fuck. Alright. But we just bought a car.
What the fuck?
I said I wasn't gonna bid more, but I did. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. ES300? Really? There's nothing special about the ES300. And to that, I'd like to say you are absolutely correct. There really isn't anything special about the ES300. I mean, it's an automatic car, it's got a ton of luxury features since it's a Lexus, but it's nothing like the LS400 or any of the JDM right-hand drive Toyota counterparts. But then again, what's so special about the Accord? You see, the Accord was also just a plain old car when I got it, and now it's something of a beast in my opinion. If you're skeptical right now, I'd like you to just give me a little time and keep an open mind. We've done impossible things to aesthetics of cars before, and we would be remiss if we didn't give it a chance. So of course, after placing the winning bid on this car, we had to go pick it up. With all the fees, I did end up paying a little more than I had hoped to, especially after the first drive home. We had gone and pulled the codes from the check engine light before bidding, and saw that it needed new shift solenoids. Thinking that that was an easy fix, we decided that it would be worth fixing. Unfortunately, that turned into a nightmare, but more on that later. On this first drive, I filled up the tank halfway and then took it an hour back home. While at the gas station, I tried to put the car in reverse and it kept slipping off the gear, likely due to the shift solenoids. When we finally got it on the highway, it was sitting at highway speeds of around 4,000 RPMs and was only using second gear since it was in some sort of limp mode. To be honest, even in the state it was in, it drove pretty smooth, and besides, I had already won the car. Really no way to turn back now. So we took it home and immediately gave it a fresh detail while waiting on my friend Alex to have availability to do the shift solenoids I had ordered that night. Who knows how long this car has been sitting, and with the pandemic on top of that, I'd rather not take a chance. The interior wasn't terrible, but there were some rough spots to clean. There was an extra key stuck inside the passenger seat, as well as a gummy bear. Yeah, I'm really not sure about that one. We ended up disinfecting the interior, shampooing the carpet, and then adding some nice weather-resistant floor mats. Shout out to Eric for them floor mats, they are pretty solid. While the carpet was drying, we took off the emblems and blacked them out with Plasti-Dip. This already made a huge difference, but eventually those badges will all be shaved off. It feels so good to have a clean car. If you haven't heard much about the ES300, here's a feature and spec list for my specific car. Mine is a 95, which means it's a second generation ES300. After a lot of searching, I've come to the conclusion that this generation is similar to the 7th gen Accord in that they both have hardly any aftermarket support. While this doesn't surprise me, I thought there would at least be OEM hoods or headlights to purchase, but a quick Google search has me reconsidering. It costs almost $100 for a singular headlight, while you can get a pair of aftermarket ones for the Accord for barely $20 more. The ES300 sports the 1MZ-FE, which is a 3-liter V6 motor capable of producing 194 horsepower and 180 pound-feet of torque. This is the cousin of the Toyota Wyndham, sharing many design features with it, taking hints of inspiration from the LS400 as well. The interior is classy and very much 90s Lexus, boasting a premium sound system, cup holders, a climate control system that blows amazingly warm in the winter, and a full leather interior. However, this car specifically did not have heated functionality on the seats, though the front two are both fully electric. One thing that I miss from the Accord is the lack of a center console pocket that's more general usage, instead of having a cigarette lighter and a coin pouch / ashtray. It's more difficult to put your phone anywhere since there's not really a spot for it, but over time I've actually gotten quite used to that, and I kinda just put it right next to the e-brake. A couple of the smaller features I personally appreciate are the trunk lock button, which renders the actual trunk release inoperable, and the lock sound volume knob, which can change how loud your car beeps at you when you unlock and lock it. After bringing the car back home, I tried not to drive it too much. With the transmission not going into reverse, I decided that it would be better to leave the car sitting until it was fixed. The shift solenoids I ordered took a week to arrive, and I made plans with Alex to get the car into the shop in Bellingham. We headed up there on a beautiful Friday morning and enjoyed the sun beaming onto us, giving us a break from the dreary Pacific Northwest winter rain. The trip took 2.5 hours one direction, and we landed on Chuckanut Drive. While looking across the bay towards the San Juan Islands, I heard a familiar rumble, and turned around to see my buddy Jonathan had found us on the scenic byway. We had lived in the same apartment complex while attending Western Washington University, and his STI had become even cleaner in our time apart. Eventually, we went our separate ways, hitting Super Duper Teriyaki for lunch. You guys already know, I love Super Duper, and it's my go-to every time I'm in town, unless it's Wednesday, where they're closed. But it was a Friday, so we got our fix. While waiting for Alex to get off of work, he called me and explained that we would no longer be able to use the shop to do the work as planned. Instead, we would have to link up at his apartment complex where we would put the car up on ramps as the sun disappeared. As we started to wrench beneath the car, first draining the transmission fluid, then taking off the cover, the air started to cool around us. For 4 hours, we laid on the bare ground in 28-degree weather, while the cars around us accumulated a layer of frost. We had to stop and get warm every half hour, and it was getting very late into the night. Eric had work the next day, and Andy and I had school. At this point, Eric and I started thinking we should have brought along a chaser car in case the transmission fixing didn't go according to plan. That was the original intent, and next time we are definitely bringing a chaser car. It's quite a wonder that we were able to put the transmission back together completely while freezing on the ground and working with just phone flashlights in the middle of a parking lot. There was a lot of ATF just dripping onto our faces, and it wasn't such a great time, but we definitely got it done. While we were under the car, we found that somebody had tried to replace the shift solenoids before and screwed up in the process. There were some loose bolts on the valve body, and there was no pressure building up for the shift process. Many of the gaskets were also kind of flaking off, but since we didn't have any replacement gaskets, we will have to wait until next time to replace those. After taking out the valve body, we found it quite obvious why the car wasn't shifting. The shift solenoid wiring had been pinched when putting the valve body back, and in turn, the wiring was now ineffective. Huge shout out to Alex for helping me with the shift solenoids. Alright, we're gonna see if she runs. We just put everything back together. It is also dark as fuck outside. Alright, start her up. Well, she starts.
Well,
I mean, obviously, but it's really the gears and stuff.
let's wait for a little bit.
Yeah, let's let her warm up a little bit. Alright, he's gonna take it for a spin. Hopefully it drives properly.
Let's try to go off the hill reverse.
Okay. It's driving now, but
It's slipping.
yeah. And just like that, we have made it back to Lacey from Bellingham. We made it all the way 150 miles in that car. Now the car drives in all of its gears, including overdrive, and then it also goes into reverse, although it does slip a little in reverse, so that's something we need to figure out still. But when we did take apart the transmission, some of the gaskets were falling apart. I didn't have any replacement gaskets, so we left them as is. And then also the valve body wasn't even tight in there, so there was no shift pressure, and that's kind of why it wasn't shifting, as well as the solenoids were pretty badly damaged, as you could see in that little clip that I showed you guys. The wires were pretty much fried, so that was the issue with the transmission for the most part. But the clutch packs are going out, so I might have to do some more transmission work at some point. But we did replace the transmission filter, and it made it feel very, very smooth on the ride back down. So pretty solid overall. I'm not too upset about this car, and I do have more plans for it in the future. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification bell so you know when the next episode of the Lexus build is coming out. I've already bought coilovers for it. You guys saw in the very beginning I had a black bumper on. Actually painted that bumper, so that'll be in the next episode as well. And I have some other little things that I want to put on the car as well, so stay tuned for that. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.